Greetings fellow Fright Fiends, and thanks for dropping by the Horror Zone. I hope everyone's doing well. This video is going to be focusing on a film that I've talked about very briefly on this channel. I believe I did a video of my worst horror films a long time ago per request. Typically on this channel I don't talk about movies or anything I don't like, unless I'm giving a review or talking about something I happened to watch that I was excited about that disappointed me. Typically I don't like to go back and watch films that disappointed me or ones that I've given a fair number of chances to and it just doesn't work for me. But this was a case where it's a film that I hadn't watched in a long time, and I saw that it was relatively cheap on Amazon, so I thought I'd pick it up. The first time I saw this film I was 14 years old. It was the summer of 1988, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that experience as well as just talking about my thoughts on the film. And I just watched it again probably for the first time in about, I'm going to say, at least 10 to 15 years. It's been a long time since I watched this film. Of course, I'm talking about the sequel, if you want to call it that, to Salem's Lot. A Return to Salem's Lot is what I will be focusing on today. This is a film that is very deceptive in its marketing, especially the cover. It also is one that was written and directed by Larry Cohn, who is known for movies like It's Alive, The Stuff. He also contributed to one of the early screenplays for the original Salem's Lot, the miniseries that Tobe Hooper would go on to direct. Really excited to talk about this. So Joe Weber is an archaeologist, and he travels with his estranged rebellious son to the town of Salem's Lot, unaware that it is populated by vampires. Joe had an aunt that lived in the town. She left him a house. What he discovers upon entering the town and spending some time there is that vampires pretty much run the town. And once the secret is revealed, they call on Joe to write a Bible for them. For the cast, you have Michael Moriarty as Joe Weber, you have Samuel Fuller as Dr. Van Meer, Ricky Anderson Reed as Jeremy Weber, Andrew Dungan as Judge Axel, June Havoc as Aunt Clara, Tara Reid as Amanda. This was her first movie. The story was written by Larry Cohn. It was done by Larry Cohn and James Dixon, and it was directed by Larry Cohn. So yeah, as a 14-year-old kid, I was already obsessed with Salem's Lot. And the summer of 1988, I was actually, during that summer, I was in a play, Joseph and the Amazing Dreamcoat, and I played Jacob in it. And it was actually taking place at the high school I was about to attend in a couple of months. I had become really good friends with this older woman and her son that ran a video store in this little shopping center by where the school was, and I would go in there and talk to her because I was really obsessed with movies already at that age. And I noticed a picture or a poster or something that showed this image of Barlow instead of Return to Salem's Lot, and already Salem's Lot was one of my favorite movies. And when the movie became available to rent, I remember I asked my aunt, because I was too young to get a rental card because I was only 14, but I remember asking my mom to rent it for me. And I remember just how excited I was that there had been, you got to think, this is 1988, there's no internet, there's nothing. I don't even think Fangoria, I had read anything in Fangoria about a new Salem's Lot movie. I'm sure it was covered there, but I had never seen anything, and I read Fangoria pretty regularly at that point. But getting this movie, and I remember sitting down to watch it, and the opening of this film is very deceptive, as much as the poster is deceptive, in that it shows flames, like it shows a Return to Salem's Lot, it has fire. Very much reminiscent of the end of the miniseries where they burn the Marston house down. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to pick up from there and shows what happens to the town. And pretty much right off the gate, you meet the Joe Weber character, this anthropologist, and he's filming this tribal ceremony. He gets called back to the States because of his son. Ronnie Blakely, who actually played Marge Thompson in Nightmare on Elm Street, has a very small part at the beginning. She plays his estranged wife. She pretty much, hands off the Jeremy kid to Joe, and she is not in the movie anymore. Right out the gate, you can just tell that there's something off about this movie, and I think it just has to do, I've never been a big fan of Michael Moriarty. I don't know what it is about him. He's just not an actor that I really enjoy. And his relationship with his son, the son is rebellious, of course, but all they do is swear at each other, and there's a timing issue with the way that they talk to each other. I don't know if it was just the way it was edited or the way the actors delivered their performances, but there's no bond between these two at all. They just seem angry all the time, and they're constantly swearing at each other, especially Jeremy, who swears up and down throughout the entire movie. It just seems so unbelievable, especially in 1988. If I had talked to my father like that in 1988, I would have been killed. So it just like that was like something that just it took me out of the movie. Also, the fact that they go to the town, the town of Salem's Lot, and Joe had actually spent time there as a kid with his aunt, which is kind of a play on Ben Mears in the original, that his aunt worked at the Marston house and he had moved out of the town when he was 10 years old. So they have that in there. Actually, the aunt in this is named Clara Hooper, which I thought was kind of a little nod to Tobe Hooper. Also, it's a dairy town, so I thought that might have been a little bit of a nod to Ferndale, because Ferndale, where they shot the original Salem's Lot, is a dairy town. But as they get to the town of Salem's Lot, they realize that it's all vampires, and the vampires are very cartoonish in this film. They all sleep in coffins. They come out, with like their suits and their dresses. Also, they sleep in pajamas in some cases. And the town is run by they call them drones. So it's kind of like how Straker was kind of the keeper of the vampires in the original Salem's Lot. You have these guys that run the gas station and some of the stores in town that kind of trap victims and things like that. It's a very weird film, because you don't know. There's some parts that seem very serious, and then there's some parts that seem almost like comedic, or they're very over the top. Barlow is not in this film at all. The marketing for this, showing him on the cover, is very misleading, and it fooled me as a 14-year-old kid. I was very disappointed watching this film. Even the lettering on this box is nothing used in the film. So the original Salem's Lot lettering, which is was used in the original film for the opening credits, is not used in this. So they were really deceptive in their marketing with this film. There are some pros to the film, though. Revisiting it, I did like a few elements of the film that I was surprised held up pretty well. One of the positives is Michael Menard's score. I actually really enjoyed. I mean, nothing like Harry Suckman's, of course, but Michael Menard's score has a very kind of fairy tale vibe to it, and I actually thought it was pretty effective in some moments of the film. It holds up really well, and I enjoyed hearing it again. The other great thing about it, they shot this film in Vermont. I think the town looks fantastic. Of course, it's not Ferndale, so it has that strike against it. But still, for the elements, the town looks great. I actually think Daniel Pearl, who a lot of people will know from, he was the cinematographer for Texas Chainsaw Massacre and its remake. His cinematography is beautiful. The town looks amazing. There's some terrific night shots in it. The only actor in the film that I really liked was Samuel Fuller, who plays Van Meer. I just really liked him because he's this Nazi hunter, which is weird in itself, but he's just the most entertaining and seems like he's having a blast, whereas everybody else just seems like they're kind of going through the motions. Doesn't seem like very wooden performances and very stilted dialogue. Samuel Fuller was the only one that seemed to have a real character and was interesting as soon as he showed up on screen, and every time he was in a scene, it was that much better. And there is a big blue vampire in this film, but it's not Barlow, of course. Barlow was killed in the original film. But it's the makeup effects are very kind of rubbery looking. They don't look realistic at all. There's no tension in this film. There's no suspense. It's pretty much all just like when they are eventually going after the vampires. It's very quick and fast, and there's some cool little effects here and there, but for the most part, there's nothing to be scared about in this film. Also, there's a couple of fire scenes in this film, and they actually reuse stock footage that was used in Salem's Lot. One specific shot that I caught right away was the scene in Salem's Lot where Ben Mears sets fire to the Marston House steps before him and Mark flee. That shot, as the Jeep leaves, you don't see the Jeep in the frame, but you see that scene in this film. And I was like, that was very strange, but Warner Brothers owns the rights, but they use stock footage from the original Salem's Lot in this. I don't know. It's just, like I said, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me watching it again, and I probably will never watch it again. It's one of those films that I bought because I'm a completist. I have the remake that came out in 2004, but the original Salem's Lot. As a kid watching this film, this was one of the biggest disappointments of my childhood, because I was so excited to think that they had made a sequel to one of my favorite movies at that point, and to see this, there's no mention of Ben Mears, Mark, what had happened in the town. There's no mention of the Marston house. It's not shown. Nothing to do with that first movie. And I'm like, if you're going to make a movie called A Return to Salem's Lot and not even reference the original film, it comes off as very strange. It's almost like the events of that film never happened, or the town just was rebuilt by the vampires. But why, it's, again, no mention of the Marston house, no mention of any of the iconic characters or locations from the original. It just seems very out of place. It seems very strange, and I don't know what Larry Cohen was going for with this film. I know most people hate this film. I hated it for a long time and swore I would never own it. But during this time, right now, I just felt like, it'd be kind of cool to revisit it. I've done several videos recently on Salem's Lot, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to revisit this and see if it's still as bad as I remember it. And it is still as bad as I remember it. There's a few elements that I enjoyed, like I said, with the music, the cinematography, and the Samuel Fuller's acting in it, which is over the top, but he's interesting. At least he comes off as someone interesting in the film. Everybody else, I really hated the dialogue, the characters. It doesn't seem natural. The acting, the way that people talk to each other, the relationship between Joe and his son Jeremy is absolutely horrible. And I just didn't care for those characters. I didn't care for really anybody in the town. It just was a very big disappointment, and it's a really bad movie. And I think if it would have been called something else, I think if they would have, it might have been more enjoyable as a B movie. But the fact that you can't really tell what tone they were going for, it's almost like when Larry Cohen wrote this, he didn't know what he wanted the film to be. If he wanted it to be serious, if he wanted it to be silly and goofy. It's probably one of the worst films I've ever seen, and I think it's just because it's such a disappointment when following what is, in my opinion, the greatest vampire movie ever made. Glad I watched it, glad I revisited it, but still, for me, A Return to Salem's Lot will get one skull. So that is it, fellow fiends, talking about A Return to Salem's Lot, a film, like I said, that is probably one of my least favorite movies ever made. If it would have been called something else, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit. If it had no ties to, the Tobe Hooper masterpiece, in my opinion. But the fact that they fooled people, even as a young kid, they fooled me with its marketing, with the poster, making it seem like it's tying directly to that original masterpiece, miniseries, movie, whatever you want to call it. I hate that. I hate deceptiveness, and it's very deceptive. So, like I said, there's a couple elements I like. Probably a film I'll just leave on the shelf. I like the poster. That's pretty much why I bought it. I think the cover's cool. That's probably the coolest thing about it, is that cover. But yeah, that is my thoughts on A Return to Salem's Lot. I'm curious if anybody else has seen the film. If you guys have seen the film, if you like the film, put your thoughts in the comment section below. A lot of people think that the Hooper miniseries is too long, that it should be shorter. There is a shortened version. They've never released it on Blu-ray or DVD. You can only get it on VHS still. I have a copy of it, and I revisited it last year. And I still prefer the longer miniseries. I like the character development. That's what I think makes everything that happens in the second half of the film that much more powerful. So thanks so much, everyone, for watching. One more thing that I want to say before I sign off. This might be the last video I do for a little while. I did have an experience recently. I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics about it, but it had to do with Salem's Lot and one of the Salem's Lot groups I belong to on Facebook. There's a gentleman named Olivier. He's in Paris, and he did a really awesome picture of me. It almost looks like I'm in Barlow and Straker's Antiques, and he put that on the Salem's Lot group, and it was a very nice gesture. It wasn't something I asked for at all. He was grateful for the 40th anniversary coverage that I did of the event last year in Ferndale to celebrate the film. I did that because I love the film and I wanted to share it with everyone. I don't do this for money. I don't do this for fame. I do this because it's out of the kindness of my heart, and I like to share things that I enjoy with people. That's the only thing it came from. There was someone that belonged to that group that had some choice words for me. The conversation got shut down by the owner of the Facebook group, but this individual reached out to me through Messenger as well, and had a lot of choice words for me. For some reason, they don't like me. That's all I can say, and that's fine. I I understand that some people might not like my content, some people might not like what I have to say about certain things, but I've always been very fair. I will have a conversation with you if you can talk to me like an adult, talk to me with respect. If you're going to start name calling or saying, cussing at me or things like that, then I don't have time for you in my life. And that's all I'm really going to say about it, because it was very, very out of left field. I never did anything to this individual. There's been people in the past that have, said mean things to not only myself, but people that have posted comments to videos. I don't have time for people like that, and if you do that, I will block you. I've said that for years, and I stand by that. If you want to talk to me like an adult, if we have a difference of opinion, that's one thing. Don't have a problem with that at all. But if you're going to come at me and talk to me in a very negative way or be very mean, I don't have time for that. I do this out of fun. This is supposed to be fun. I'm not doing this as a job, and I don't know who this person was or why I bothered them so much, but yeah, I don't have time for people like that in my life. And like I said, it was very out of left field, and I just wanted to get that off my chest, because it was just something that's kind of threw me off my balance a little bit, and I think I need to take a break from doing videos for a little bit just to sort of regroup. So like I said, I might take a short little break. I want to work on some writing. I think that I'm going to dedicate some of my free time to that for a little while. But I really appreciate everyone's kind words and support. I will always support other YouTubers, other horror YouTubers, as much as I can. I know everybody's going through a lot right now, and hopefully this quarantine or whatever we're all going through lifts soon, and we can all go back to, or start to go back to our lives. The kind words in the comments, it really means a lot. I try to watch everyone's videos as much as possible and give feedback, but just know that all the support means a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope everyone's doing well, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy. Stay scared. I want to thank everyone for taking this time to drop by the Horror Zone. It really means a lot to me that people are supporting what I do here. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button down below. I upload videos at least once or twice a week. It would really mean a lot if people would spread the word about this channel. This is a passion of mine. I love the horror genre, and I'm really happy to share my love of it with all of you. So thanks so much again for checking it out, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy. Peace.